So, welcome to Bloomington North Rotary this sunny June 17th, 2021. We are, well, I'm looking forward to my year being over. I've only got 2 weeks left, and then I'm no longer president, having done this for 2 years, so I'm very excited. We have a few announcements to make. First of all, I think we did, for those of you who are guests, I'll just let you know, we just did a very successful fundraiser where we ended up raising, what was it, Jody, about $4,000 between the wine and whiskey events.
4,100. Yep, 4,100.
And we're going to be using that to help with period products, reusable period products, and education in Uganda at a school called Nyaka. And so that was a absolutely wonderful thing. If you'd like to learn more about that, you can go to our YouTube channel and check out. We have actually the executive director, or one of the directors from AfriPads, who we're partnering with, who talks about that. And it's a wonderful program for those of you visiting Rotarians. If you're looking to do something international, it is a wonderful, wonderful program to be involved with, and they can Zoom into your club to talk to you. Other announcements we have coming up on July, what is the Thursday in July? July 1st, we're doing our changeover where Joe Fuschetto will be taking over and I will be retiring into the sunset. Not that I'm all excited about that, but I am. And the other big event we have coming up is the Rotary International Conference. First of all, it's going on right now. All right, just finished. Hope everybody had a wonderful time at that. It was virtual again this year. I'll confess, I didn't attend, it was virtual. However, next year they are doing it in person again. And for those of you who've never been to a Rotary International event, they are one of the best events you can go to. My wife and I have been to 5 or 6 of them. We are going to Houston next year. It is going to be June 4th through 8th at Houston, Texas. It is one of the easiest ones to get to since it is here domestically. Like this year, it was supposed to be in Taipei, which is a lot harder to get to. But being in Texas, that'll be a lot easier to get to. I highly recommend going. There'll be about 20 to 30,000 Rotarians from around the world. These are going to be the friendliest people you will ever meet, and they're interested in doing different projects. And it's best to go when you don't actually have a club position. That's what I like doing, because I can actually go and see the different events and things that I'm actually interested in. Like for me, I'm very interested in water projects. But you can go there and meet lots of people that are interested in doing the same things. Plus, they do a lot of fellowship. They have, like for those of us in the wine fellowship, they have wine dinners specifically designed for that. They have whiskey dinners. They have zoo visits. They have everything you could possibly want to do there. So highly recommend, if you need to know about that, go to convention.rotary.org or send me an email and I'll be happy to hook you up with that. And I believe that is all the announcements I have. Does anybody have any announcements before I introduce our speaker? I don't see any. So I would like to introduce our speaker. Let me switch this over. I'm going to ask everybody to mute if you haven't already. Looks like everybody has. And here comes Mark. Our speaker today is Courtney Payne Taylor. She is the operations director. Did I get that right, Courtney? With the Boys and Girls Club locally. So she is going to be giving, let me mute a couple people here. She is going to be giving us some updates on how the Boys and Girls Clubs have been doing and all the different projects they have going on. I think we all are well aware they do a lot in our community, but Courtney, if you would like to take a moment and tell us a little more about yourself and then tell us what all is going on with the Boys and Girls Club. You're muted.
I always forget that. I'll go ahead and
You're good.
Share my screen as well. All right, does that look like presentation mode to you?
Yep, we see it.
Okay, wonderful. So my name is Courtney Payne Taylor. I am a Bloomington native, born and raised here. I graduated from Kelly after attending North, Ivy Tech, and IU. Proud Kelly graduate. I went off and toured the country in my van from 2006 to 2011, teaching girls to skateboard through a nonprofit I started called the Girls Riders Organization. Then I moved to New York City for 2011 to 2017, where we enacted grow local chapters around the country based out of New York City. And then it just was like, I feel like I'm plateauing and I need to take my next step. And the only thing I knew about that next step was that I needed to come back to my town of Bloomington to do that. So why am I telling you about this? Because it's skateboarding that actually brought me to the Boys and Girls Club. So in end of 2018, beginning 2019, we started the first skateboarding program at the Lincoln Street Club. And I ran that program for over a year there for their kids when Mr. Jeff Baldwin came to me and said, we'll be hiring an operations director next year and we would like you to apply. So I was actually offered the job the beginning of March, and then the club shut down. And then I ended up starting, my first day was June 17th of last year. So today marks my 1-year anniversary with this role at the club. So it's been an exciting roller coaster of a year. Jeff Baldwin, our executive director, would normally do these talks. He is out fishing in Wyoming. So I am going to do my best to take his place for this. So this presentation that we'll see is what Jeff normally shares, but I'm going to put my little bits of stories in here as we go along because it has been quite the adventure. So our mission is to empower all young people, especially those who need us most, to reach their full potential as caring, productive, and responsible citizens. And when we talk about this, I think there's so much of a connotation that this is just for the people of very low income, but this is not in any way. Children from all classes and races and genders and creeds and backgrounds and countries, all children have different needs, and we really want to be there to serve all of them. So on March 16th, this is about the time that Jeff called me and said, we will not be hiring you quite yet. That's when we had to close down all of the clubs. That's when our community shut down. And wow, I think it's hard. We all felt an impact of that. But for us at the Boys and Girls Club, having to close our doors was a really, really hard decision. It is incredible the amount of good we get to do for our children every day, the safe place we get to be for our children through whatever craziness is going in the world around them. The club is that safe, secure, regular place that they can come and be. So to make the decision to shut down the club was incredibly challenging. One interesting stat that's not in here that really hit me hard when I started was one day I was speaking with DCS, the Department of Child Services. So at the club, we are mandated reporters. So we not only take care of the kids in our care, but we are always have an eye out for our kids. If there is anything that we see that is suspicious or that there might be a child being abused or neglected, we always contact DCS. We help make sure that the world surrounding that child is safe. So in a conversation with DCS one day, they told me that during the pandemic, the amount of calls and reports to DCS dropped by 53%. 53%, over half of the kids. Now, it wasn't that these situations wasn't happening. It's that the kids were not in schools. The kids were not in the clubs. So these things weren't being identified. So that was a really scary fact. Something that really hit me early on in my employment here is just how incredibly important it is that our clubs stay open. So they all got to the table. I wasn't there quite yet in March and April, but they all came to the table and said, what do we do? How do we reopen, at least in some form? So in that time, they spent a couple weeks really hitting the pavement, working hard. They did a lot of checks on our donors, on older parents or grandparents of our members, making sure that they were okay, that they didn't need anything. They started a food and supply drive that served over, I think the numbers might be in here. Let's see. So yeah, here we go. Communication to all club families, welfare checks to older donors. We did a virtual club for that period of time we were shut down, where our members could just join and participate in activities virtually. We did the community food and supply drive. I know we served over 90 families every single week. We provided them not just food, but things like toilet paper, detergents, diapers, all those kind of necessities. And then we developed the youth pod concept, and we opened up our first doors in April. We opened for the CERC camps. So what that is for our first responders. So it was a partnership with IU Health. And then there were some certain other employees that just had to be out there that could not go to work. And we opened up to be able to serve their kids, so their kids had a safe place to be while they were saving the rest of us. Then in May and June, so I guess, yeah, May and June is when they were running the CERC camp, and we were preparing to how do we launch all of our clubs open in some format. Now, obviously that was a bit different. Normally at Boys and Girls Club, a child can drop in at any time, but we didn't have that ability due to COVID capacity. So we really had to think about how do we rework everything. And this is when I came in and we stopped the virtual club and we went in person. So we opened Camp Rock, Lincoln Street, and Ferguson Crestmont, along with Ellettsville, extending beyond just our emergency response folks. And we were serving 150 youth daily by, this says July, but it was actually June. We were serving this many children in June. So that was really wonderful. It still was, a far stretch from the 575 that we were serving a day in the end of December, but it was a start, and it was a joyous start, something to be able to do and be able to serve our kids. And so we thought, we're like, yeah, we've got a plan. We've got things going. We've been surviving. The kids are having a good time. And it was almost going to be August, which means school's open. Because I don't know if you know, when it's summertime, we take care of kids when they are not in school. So in the summer, we are taking care of kids from 7:30 a.m. until 6 p.m. You can imagine that's a long day to take care of a lot of kids. So we were excited to get back into after school in just a couple of weeks. Before school was going to open, we got the emails and the calls from the school systems that schools would not be opening their doors. And so we had less than 2 weeks to pivot and figure out, how do we serve kids full day with e-learning? So for us, summer wasn't going to end. We were going to be adding running school programming, supporting our kids, providing tutoring to our kids while they were doing their e-learning. And it was a massive undertaking. And I remember when I was there, I was still so new to my job at this point, and just sitting in with our team and just looking at each other like, oh my Lord, what do we do? But boy, did we become experts in figuring things out and pivoting quickly. So before the schools opened, the first day of school, we were able to open our clubs to serve kids in e-learning. By that point, we were serving over 200 kids a day. And during the fall semester, we grew that from 200 to almost 300 kids a day in the fall semester. So that was a wonderful thing to do. And then we had to pivot with yellow. Schools went into that hybrid. So we had to figure, what the heck do we do with that? And then schools went to green, and then schools went back to red. So it was just really inspiring for me as a new employee to see how this team of people just refused to say no. When it comes to, will you serve these kids? These people cannot say no. And I'm honored to be part of a team like that. So then as we continued on the rest of the year, we got, all of our pods. We were able to start bringing back some of our specialty programs. We were able to start bringing back a few external community partners that help us run some of our world-class programming, and a few volunteers. So at that point, by the end of the year, we were serving up to 350 kids a day. And it was just really exciting. Even, at the end of the year too, right before the holiday break, we experienced that second shutdown, and it was with us that kids closed out their semester for the school year. This is another point I have to just say how mind-blowing it was, the flood of support from our community during this time, and the donations and the gifts. The Hoosier Hills Food Bank helped us put together a box of food for every child in our clubs for Thanksgiving. Between Kroger and our donors with our Angel Tree program, we were able to give every child in the club at least 3 Christmas gifts before Christmas. It was just incredible. In such a hard time with so much unsurety, our kids were able to have a safe place. We're able to have a Thanksgiving, able to have a Christmas, and just have a little port in the storm as we tried to figure out what was going on in the world of COVID. So that's a little bit about the COVID story, which will bring us to today. Today in the summer, this day, we have 346 kids being served at either Ferguson Crestmont, Lincoln Street, Ellettsville, or out at Camp Rock. Camp Rock is doing great. Our Camp Rock actually sold out. Every spot was registered within 4 hours of opening the registration. So it's been really neat. People are ready to get back out. We had a lot of parents that kept their kids at home during the pandemic. And I think all of us on this call too can feel like we are ready. We're ready to see each other in person. We're ready to get out of the house. We're ready to reconnect with our community. So our registration has increased. We are now serving 90 to 110 kids every day per club. So we're excited to do that. And hopefully come fall, we can remove our COVID capacities. So of course, we've got still some wait and see on how that happens, but that is our hope. So every kid, every day. I mean, this is the mission of the Boys and Girls Club. So we're going to look at numbers from 2019. So you get an idea of kind of the mountain we're going to climb to get back to where we were. Over 3,000 kids were reached in 2019. Over 2,000 of those kids were people that came into the club and we served through the club. That is a lot of children in Bloomington. So why does it matter that we are there for the kids, that we can provide a positive impact for our kids? For 575 members, we expect this year that we will, if we can open up for fall or when we're able to open up, we're expecting about 650 members a day because we have actually added 7 Oaks as a 4th site. So we're really excited about that growth. We offer 144 days of programming. So that means if you stacked up every hour that we had and put them into days, we serve children 144, equivalent of 144 school days. The school serves children 180 days a year. So you can see kids spend almost as much time with us in the course of their life as they do in their school. We are in a position to make a really big impact on these children. Now looking at our community, I look at Bloomington, I think this is a beautiful community. It's like, oh, there's not people struggling here, right? This is such a great community, but there's a large portion of people that need help. So these are some numbers looking specifically at our Ferguson Crestmont Club. That's the one by the Crestmont neighborhood that we specifically put there to target those families in need. 7300. That's a small number. An annual income. 100% dependent on food stamps. Nearly 100% represent single family households. I mean, there's just quite a situation, a hard situation to raise children, without that support around you. Here's another thought about where we are with our youth today. We've got 15 to 24-year-olds. 1 in 5 have considered suicide. 1 in 6 with a detailed plan. Our children are facing incredible mental challenges, and especially under COVID, feeling so disconnected and so alone. Here's looking at the, kind of financially, what does Monroe County look like? We'll kind of scan through this one and go to this next one because I like the graph on the side. So the 22% represents those at or below the poverty level. The 30% represents what we call ALICE households, assets limited, income constrained, employed. These people are people that are out there working, that are trying their best, but are on that line, that one car wreck, one hospitalization, a lost job will be the difference between them staying above poverty or not, that are that close. With 30 and 22%, that means over half of our population is in poverty or on the brink of poverty. And that's a scary thought, that we have so many of our children growing up in this scenario. Here's another one. This was one when I spoke at the Exchange Club. This definitely struck a chord with so many veterans there. 75% of our country's 17 to 24-year-olds are ineligible for military service. Now, we are not an organization that's pushing kids to sign up for the military. That is not at all what we do, but we want to look at this stat because back many years ago, almost all of our youth would have been eligible for the military. And today in the world and the youth that we have, 75% could not participate in the military. And it's just such a big change, I think, in our culture and our world. Those reasons being poorly educated, overweight and unhealthy, criminal records, drug addictions. So these kind of topics we will circle back to a little later, but we can look at the details a little bit closer. 1 in 4, now when Jeff gives this speech, he says the Monroe County graduation rates are inflated, but nationally it is proven that 1 in 4 students are not earning a high school diploma. Here's where you see kind of the obesity rates. The chart is for adults, but you can even see that we are 11th highest in the nation for youth obesity rates. mean, this is just a trend that we're seeing across all ages. It leads to their second reason that they're not eligible for the military, and also leads to all sorts of other different diseases and risks that, we don't want to be putting on our kids today. 1 in 10 youth have a felony or serious misdemeanor charge before they're 18 years old. This one here is looking at 30-day prevalence. So it's not just have you tried a drug or illicit drug. This is have you done it for 30 days, which means have you reached the point that you are most likely addicted? 16.5% of youth fall into that category, all under 18 years old. So that's the, kind of the world, the situation that they're in. And this is why it matters. And this is why we take so much pride and care in what we do, because we are in a position to help these children rewrite their futures. We do that through our world-class programming. Again, every time kids are not in school, except for at night when they should be home in bed, we take care of them on break days, we take care of them in the summer, and we take care of them after school. We do that through Camp Rock and our in-club camps. And we have community outreach programs as well to reach those that, maybe don't come into the club, but we still like to impact as many kids in the community as possible. So there's our break camps. There's a little picture of Camp Rock. Such a wonderful place. We actually got a grant from SEI REMC, and we just installed last week this incredible massive raft that sits out in the middle of the lake with a trampoline, a slide, and a log roll. Great place to be if you've never been out there. It's on Lake Lemon by Riddle Point. Here's just examples of some of our community outreach events. We do have Lemonade Day back live this year. So it's actually coming up next week is Lemonade Day. So keep an eye out for random lemonade stands around your community. Stop in and get a beverage. I heard from one booth said, "We don't like lemonade." This is the kids. "We don't like lemonade, so we're doing a cookie stand." And then another kid had a really great idea because they have 2 dogs at home. So with their lemonade stand, there will also be dog treats, homemade dog treats. So it's just really cool seeing these kids get the inspiration of the entrepreneurial spirit. We will be bringing Hoops Hysteria back this year. We had to cancel it last year due to COVID. And the father-daughter dance, we're hoping we can bring back in person. We did it virtually last year and reached over 100 families, but we are excited to see the development of that this year as well. And here's just a couple slides from those. But again, those are 2019. There's a little photo from one of our virtual dance participants. And then our Lemonade Day. So now thinking back here where we talked about the reasons people are not eligible for the military was poor education, academic success, healthy lifestyles for the obesity rates, good character and active citizenship to relate to the criminal records and the drug addiction. We design the pillars of our programming to specifically address the biggest needs of kids in our community. These core areas matter so much to us that at each club there's a unit director and then there are program directors. Those program directors are specialized on these 3 areas. We have an academic success program director, a good character and active citizenship program director, and a healthy lifestyles. They are the core of everything we do for our children. Over the past 5 years, so Indiana Kids is a wonderful program. I know right now we've got the whole world is talking about what do we do about learning loss? What do we do about all of the kind of education loss of the kids during COVID, whether it was because they were out on quarantine for a couple of weeks, whether it was because they were online or they were in school, but the teacher was struggling because they were trying to do too much. We had a lot of kids that are in summer school right now with the learning loss. For us at the Boys and Girls Club, it doesn't mean a lot of changing on what we're going to do to help stem learning loss because it's what we do every day at the club. When the kids get off of the bus, they get a snack because you don't try to teach a hungry kid. So they get a snack when they get off the bus, they go into their homeroom, and we spend the first hour of their time there on academic success. We do homework help, we have reading buddies, we have tutoring, and then we also work with the Indiana Kids program that helps just raise their math and reading scores. And here you can see some percentages of the growth that have happened. Now, obviously these kids are in school, so I'm not going to try to fudge our numbers. There would be an automatic, say 30% learning increase over the course of a school year. But you can see in the difference between 87 and 30% and 57 and 30% that we get to make an additional impact on the improvement with these children. Teens is a sad one for me because under COVID, when we had to make choices about who to serve, if a child is 15, 16 years old, obviously they are less at risk being at home than say a 6-year-old. So during COVID, we lost a lot of our teen members as they made the choices to stay home and we had to choose to serve our younger kids. But we are excited that we do have our teen programs back up and running at all of the clubs now, and we are starting to see those numbers grow. So yesterday we had 62 teens across our 4 locations, and we're so excited to get them back. We not only utilize teens as our members that do everything else that our younger kids do, but we look at our teens as, as staff in training almost. We really like to, we've got one, Ferguson Crestmont Club. I remember when I started, one of our pods, our oldest pod in that group, and now they weren't fully teens. They were like 12. We had a couple 13-year-olds. Boy, were they the room we got called to a lot. So-and-so said this, so-and-so did that. It was just, they were the troublemakers. They were such troublemakers. But then we got them into what we call the Junior Leaders Program. So each one of those kids had to associate with one of the younger pods. They had to be kind of an assistant teacher, an assistant leader for a younger kid's pods. And I remember this one kid specifically, Trey, that had been our biggest troublemaker. Several months later, I see him coming down the stairs at the Ferguson Crestmont Club because our younger members are upstairs. He's coming down the stairs and he's just shaking his head. And I said, Trey, what's going on? He goes, those kids, they're not listening. They are so challenging. And it was just so neat for him to, kind of see the alternative perspective. And it's almost like you could see the young man emerging through that experience. So that's one example. We do counselors in training. We do lots of career programs. So we can't wait to get them back and do more. But those kids, again, it's not only impacting their lives, but they are in such a great spot to help impact the younger kids because they're still young enough to be cool. Whereas I don't necessarily classify as cool for all these kids anymore. So specialty programs. So this is where Jeff likes to talk about the magic soup. So I don't know if you've ever been told about the magic soup, but how Jeff likes to think of our organization is, we are all here to help the development of a child. So it's almost like making the magic soup. You start with the child in the pot. We don't mean that literally. We care about safety for sure. We're not sticking children in pots, but for the metaphor, we stick the child in the pot. There are 2 key ingredients that need to go in the pot with that child. The first one being people. People are one of the biggest impacts that will touch a child's life, be it the parent, be it teachers, be it club staff, be it someone at the church, someone, a neighbor, a grandmother. There's a lot of people around the kids, and those people that surround the kids will make an impact one way or another. Our goal is to put the right people in there with the kids, the right mentors, the leaders that can teach and coach, coach and teach and coach over and over and over again. The second big ingredient is this. It is our programs. So these are the experiences that lead to the development of skills, attitudes, and behaviors of our members. This is just a small example of the programs that we run. We have 3 clubs that every day a child after school will have 3 to 4 program opportunities. So one child can participate in up to 4 different learning, whether it's sport, play, whichever one it is, 4 different programs in a single day. And there's at least 3 options for every single one of those time slots. And there's different programs on all 5 days. So a child in the club, even if you're very well off, where are you going to get your child to participate in 20 different programs in a single week without having a time machine? So that's just another thing. And you can see on here, we've got Grow Skateboarding. I'm proud. That's what brought me to the club. But we do a skateboarding at 2 of our clubs, and it's one of our most enjoyed programs. I love it when the kids, they just get so excited, like they've become a little team of skateboarders. It's just the neatest thing to watch them develop. So mentors and interns, this is another one that, was really hard for us last year. 2019, 900 volunteers, 30 interns, 13 service hours, 13,000 hours that normally would have been spent with our kids, that due to COVID, we had very few volunteers. So this is another thing that we are currently starting to bring in volunteers. We have some in the clubs now, and we're increasing that bit by bit. So as people are interested, if any of you or anyone is interested in getting back into volunteering, we are so excited to be able to welcome our community back into the club. And what do we do this for? It costs our families $20 a year. $20 a year for all after school programming, for transportation from the schools to the club, healthy snack, safe environment. You can read all of that, but that's it, $20 for the year. At Ferguson Crestmont, it's $5. If a family can't afford the $20 a year, they don't have to pay. We have scholarship processes that they can go through. Money will never be the reason a child cannot attend the club, but bringing in a little bit of money just helps put a little bit of an impact on making sure we've got our staff and everybody paid. But $20 a year. Our break day and summer camps are traditionally $20 a day. But again, that's a standard, and we work with any family that needs financial help to be able to get them in the club and get them served. To serve each member, they are wonderful, smart resource development people. Figure the actual cost of a child is about $675 for the year. We charge them $20. So it is through our, these are some examples of where we get our money from so that the kids, so we don't have to charge the kids. So our individual donors, we've got, again, amazing people. Grant funding, we've had a lot of great grant opportunities this year. We've been thankful to really help us not just get through COVID, but to continue to develop through COVID, that we didn't have to lay off a bunch of our staff, and we're so thankful for that. Corporate donations, et cetera, et cetera. If this was Jeff or Leslie, they would talk about this all day long, but I'm the operations person. So, yeah, this is another big one. I can't tell you, when we were going through the pandemic and trying to figure out how we could get every child that needed us in there, how many parents called me that says, if I can't have my child in the club, or if I couldn't have my child in the club, I would have to quit my job. It's crazy to think that we had parents out there that had to make the decision between taking care of their child and working. That people had to quit their job just because they didn't have someone for their child to go is crazy. And I'm just so thankful that we were able to help so many parents continue working during this time. It has also been figured out by people smarter than me with numbers that the average club family saves $4,300 per household per child. We do have lots of families that bring 3, 4, 5 kids to us per day. So you can imagine the impact that family is able to save that money and put that money to, and otherwise taking care of themselves and their children. So yeah, so opportunities, and this is where, again, it's not just kids that, are below the poverty line, but kids of all sorts. The club is the only place in Bloomington, Indiana that you can officially learn to skateboard with a program. There's lots of programs that we have in the club that you're gonna have a hard time finding anywhere else. So we're just excited. And a lot of these are done through amazing community partners. So we're excited to be able to offer all those. So we got the experiences, we've got the role models. Those are the good people. That's our staff, our volunteers, and our community partners. And I think the last thing, which I'm surprised Jeff doesn't have a slide for, is time in the pot. So you can't just take a raw chicken and stick it in a pot for a minute and pull it out and call it done. So it takes time to cook. So that's why, again, it really comes down to our goal is not just getting as many kids as possible in the club. Our biggest goal is how do we get each child in the club as many days as possible so that we can really just get that impact on that child and give them the support they need, not just for a day, but hopefully for a school, the lifetime of their school career. Through this, you have already seen impacts on poverty, crime, teenage pregnancy, homelessness, dropout rates. We actually track all of this through an annual survey that we do. And it's really neat to see how the impact between kids that are in our clubs and kids that are not in our clubs, that we really do get to make a difference. So again, our club offers that safe place, which matters now more than ever for our kids. And every one of our kids is going to impact our community in one way or another. And at the Boys and Girls Club, we hope that the impact that child will have on the community will be one of amazing leadership, good community, and love. And I'll take any questions you guys might have.
Well, first, I want to thank you, Courtney. I think that was a wonderful presentation. I really appreciate it. Second, I'm going to start with a couple questions, but if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand and I'll call on you in a moment. First of all, and I apologize, you may have mentioned it, but what's the ages that you serve? How young do you go?
So it's always been 6, but one of the
Okay.
things I've done is we are really pushing to serve more 5-year-olds. So we have membership eligibility. There's certain things a child needs to do to be able to come to the club. We do not go into the bathrooms with children. So if children need a lot of prompting or need help within the stall of the restroom, we cannot serve them yet. But we do really want to reach 5-year-olds. We recognize that at 5, a lot of parents are figuring out what their child's school path will be. So we're working to develop how can we allow more and more 5-year-olds to come in the club. But we serve them from 5 until they graduate high school.
And then my next question, or last question, so I serve on the board of Macomb here locally. And the question that I have is, do you do any adult education, or would the club ever be interested in partnering in some way to help provide some adult education while you watch the children? Because that's a big problem that we've run into, is that we want to do coaching or training, but they don't have childcare.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if you already offer that, or if the club would ever want to talk about something like that.
We do not offer anything that I can think of, but we are always willing to talk about anything. If there's a good possibility out there, that's definitely something we're interested in. We're actually piloting our first out of Ellettsville. It's starting next month. We're doing a parent support group. So that's where we're actually bringing in Catholic Charities, because we're not, we're bringing in experts to work with our parents. Because a lot of our parents, they pick up a kid from us. We say, hey, this happened today at the club. And you can just see the parent just, I know, but I don't know what to do about it. So we're hoping this will provide some great support. And in that, I guess I bring this up because that's kind of a model we're using, where in order to give the parents this time to participate in that group, we have to ensure that the kids are taken care of during that hour as well. So I think there's definitely potential. I'd be more than happy to speak to you more about that and see what we could do.
Wonderful. I'll set up something offline for us to talk about that. Does anybody else have any other questions or any comments? Go ahead, Charlie.
Courtney, you didn't say a whole lot about your experience. I'm just curious about how you got interested in skateboarding and so forth. And I wondered if you'd tried any of the electronic skateboards.
So skateboarding, I believe that, I know different people have different views on things, but I believe that I was kind of placed on this planet for a purpose. And I was kind of steered along my path. So when I was young, in my early teens, I was going through pretty severe depression. And I remember I was a cutter. I remember thinking, why should I bother staying alive? I could just die and the world would be fine. And that was a lot of where my mindset was at that time. And although I tried working with therapists and I started getting better looking outward, I was back in school and I looked like I was doing okay, but inside I just wasn't. And I needed to go meet the Parks and Rec directors of Bloomington. And my stepmother participated in some of those boards and committees and said, well, the skate park is opening on May 5th, 2004. You should come because the Parks and Rec people will all be there for that grand opening. So I went there with the intention of meeting John Turnbull and some other Parks and Rec folk. And I had no idea on that day that my life would change forever. So someone asked me, they said, do you skate? I said, no. They said, do you want to? I said, sure. And for some reason, I let them hold my hands and drag me back and forth across the skate park. And that day forever changed my life. It was the moment that I stopped being depressed and started finding happiness. So that's what got me excited. And then being at the skate park every day in Bloomington, I never saw any girls. So just recognizing, hey, this skateboarding has made such an impact on my life. I have to help other girls find it too. And that's kind of where all of that started. And you can actually Google my name, Courtney Payne Taylor, and you'll find multiple videos and different things about that, NBC Nightly News and some other stories related to the skateboarding. As far as the electric skateboards, yeah, I've played with them a little bit. They're so heavy. So if you ever need to pick them up, or if your worst case scenario, 5 miles from home and the battery dies, good luck. That's all I can say on that one. So no, I'm not as experienced as probably the young ones are today. I'll be 39 next month. So, but I still skate. And in fact, for some of you on here too, thinking, oh, I could never do that. I taught a 64-year-old woman to skateboard, had never been on a board in her life. She skated with me for 3 hours and was able to go up and down small hills at the skate park. And we taught a 74-year-old woman how to snowboard, first day on a snowboard.
Their insurance paid up before they go through this process?
I'm sure they were, but they were fine. There were no injuries.
That's
And I'm just slightly older than you, and I would be terrified to do it.
That's why it's good to have someone that can help you through it. And we teach kids to fall. They have to spend a full day learning to fall before they ever get to stand on a board.
You know, my sister took a self-defense class where they were teaching her how to learn to fall, and she broke her collarbone during doing that.
Oh, Lordy.
We haven't let her live it down. All right, other questions for Courtney? All right. Well, I know we've had Ashley is also the president of Tuesday's Club right now. She also works for the Boys and Girls Club. I don't know if Susan and Tom went to the Tuesday Club earlier this week or not, but that's Ashley Sullivan. And then Leslie Absher, as she mentioned, is their development director. She and I are in a couple of things together, and she just had a baby actually not that long ago. So that is
April 28th.
But Boys and Girls Club does a wonderful job in our community. We love all that you do and are very appreciative. I know quite a few of our younger members, Gabe included, were avid Boys and Girls Club participants when they were growing up. And so I was actually just thinking about, as you were talking about, I have an 8-year-old daughter, and I was like, I probably should get her involved in some of those programs. So, but at the same time, I also don't want to take a slot from somebody more needing. So it's really tricky.
Yeah, but again, hopefully, and we won't know until we get closer to fall, but hopefully fall, we can not limit anymore. And if not in the fall, dear God, I hope the spring, but we're really shooting that the fall, and we're going to still continue too. We learned a lot during COVID. We won't stop. So our hand washing, additional cleaning, there's masks if you're sick, like if a kid's got a cough, or like, let's put a mask on. So there's things that we can definitely take from this and learn, but hopefully this fall can be a step toward normal.
I hope so too. So go ahead, Jean.
I don't really have a question, but I just want to thank you for speaking today. You speak beautifully, eloquently, and from your own heart, and I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you, Jean.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And to all the fathers out there, happy early Father's Day. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And once again, Courtney, thank you very much. You did an excellent job. Feel free to watch this on YouTube later if you want. You'll be very proud of yourself because you did outstanding.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and have a great weekend. I'm going to